Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Ronald Garrett. I'm 34 years old, and up until recently, I worked as a senior project manager for a high-performance engineering firm based in Austin, Gravemont Tech Solutions. For nearly 5 years, I poured everything I had into that place, early mornings, late nights, weekends. I was the guy who made impossible client requests happen. The guy who kept his team motivated, who learned everyone's names, who fixed things without ever asking for credit. My supervisor, Camille Brewer, had been with Gravemont longer than anyone. Fierce, brilliant, charismatic in that dangerous kind of way. The kind of woman who could command a boardroom and then pivot into jokes that made interns blush. She was a legend inside the company, partly for her record, mostly for her reputation. I'd been reporting to Camille for about 18 months before the retreat. We were in Lake Travis, celebrating Gravemont's most profitable quarter ever. Camille had fought tooth and nail to get the executive team to approve the retreat. She wanted a reset, she said, a way for our department to bond before the Q4 grind. The last night was a bonfire. Wine, laughter, high fives. I remember standing by the fire pit talking to Devin from legal when Camille approached me, wine glass in hand. "Walk with me, Ronald," she said, nodding toward the dock. I didn't think much of it. Figured she wanted to talk shop, maybe about the promotion rumors that had been swirling for months. I'd been leading multi-million-dollar projects, getting nods from upper management, even being CC'd on emails I used to only hear about in whispers. Camille leaned against the railing at the end of the dock, the firelight dancing behind her. Her tone shifted. "You've done incredible work," she said. "I've been watching." I thanked her, kept it professional. That's when she stepped closer. "I can push you straight into executive track," she said softly. "Skip the board approvals. Skip the noise. But I need to know you've got my back, tonight." Her hand brushed my chest. I stepped back, gently but firmly. "Camille. I think you've had a bit too much to drink." She tilted her head, smirked. "Think about it. I didn't tell anyone. Not HR. Not my closest friends. I figured she'd wake up the next morning, chalk it up to the wine, and we'd move on like nothing happened. I was wrong. Dead wrong. It started the moment we returned from the retreat. Monday morning, I walked into the office and sensed a chill in the air I couldn't explain. My usual weekly check-in with Camille was mysteriously rescheduled, from our standard 9:30 a.m. slot to TBD. Her assistant, Marcia, wouldn't even meet my eyes when she handed me the new assignment folders. Then came the email. 3 new projects, all high stakes, all with overlapping deadlines. Each one requiring its own dedicated team. I read through the timelines twice, thinking maybe I was misunderstanding the scope. I wasn't. It was impossible work. That week, I pulled 70-hour shifts trying to keep up. My team was confused, frustrated, even. They could sense something was off. I'd gone from the guy who had his schedule dialed into someone constantly apologizing, asking for last-minute updates, pushing impossible deadlines. Then the cancellations began. Client meetings I'd scheduled weeks in advance. Scrubbed from the calendar. No explanation. Just gone. I started to notice something even more unsettling. When I submitted reports, they came back with contradictory notes. "This budget is too conservative," followed by, "You're overprojecting margins." Feedback that made no logical sense. I confronted Camille about it. She gave me a tight smile and said, "You're under pressure, Ronald. Maybe it's affecting your clarity." That was her way of gaslighting me. I wanted to believe this was just a phase, some weird test to see how I handled stress. But then, it got worse. A project I'd been prepping for 2 weeks, our pitch to Halverson Automotive, a massive EV manufacturer, was yanked from me the morning of the meeting. Camille told me I was just support and that she'd be presenting my work herself. I sat in the corner of the room and watched her deliver the proposal I'd built slide by slide. She used my data, my projections, even my damn jokes. Halverson signed a $6.5 million contract that day, and Camille smiled for the photo op like she'd done it all on her own. After the clients left, she turned to me and said, "Maybe in a few years you'll be ready to lead a pitch." That night I sat in my car in the garage, engine off, staring at the wall for nearly an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there. Frozen. I kept thinking about that doc, that moment, her breath laced with Cabernet and entitlement. This wasn't some coincidence. This wasn't work politics. This was punishment. She had propositioned me, and I had said no. Now she was burying me for it. I grew up believing hard work was enough. My father was a diesel mechanic who came home with grease under his nails and pride in his eyes. My mother worked double shifts as a nurse, never once calling in sick, even when she had the flu. I was raised on dignity. But this? This was humiliation dressed as professionalism. For the next few weeks, I documented everything. Every email. Every calendar change. Every Slack message and revision request. I organized it by date, by project, by inconsistency. Still, Camille was always one step ahead. She was careful. Slick. She knew the game better than I did. Then came the performance review. A 30-minute session where she told me, in carefully chosen HR-safe language, that my team collaboration scores were dropping and that several clients had voiced concerns about my leadership style. I asked to see the complaints. She said they were confidential. When I pushed back, she offered me an ultimatum. Sign a performance improvement plan or face formal disciplinary action. The PIP was laughable. 17 performance benchmarks, half of which contradicted each other. One task required delivery of a product 2 weeks earlier than the materials could even be sourced. I showed the plan to one of the other project leads, anonymously. His words. "They're trying to fire you, man. This is designed to fail." I signed the plan. Not because I was okay with it. But because I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I'd already started planning my next move. Not retaliation. Not yet. But I had a suspicion, something I hadn't fully investigated yet. There had been security cameras at the retreat. Audio equipped. And Camille herself had approved every detail of that trip. If I was right, she'd built the very system that could destroy her. I spent the next 6 weeks living in quiet hell. Under the weight of Camille's performance improvement plan, I was surviving on caffeine, fumes, and whatever scraps of dignity I could still cling to. She set me up with back-to-back deadlines, buried me in unrealistic expectations, and denied me access to support staff I once trained. She wanted to break me. And she almost did. But what she didn't know was that every sleepless night and every passive-aggressive note she left on my desk only sharpened my resolve. I wasn't going to survive this, I was going to beat it. And that's when I remembered the cameras. At the retreat, before that walk on the dock, the one that started everything, I'd seen the blinking red light on the motion detector near the fire pit. I knew security systems like that weren't just for show. Camille had approved every part of the retreat, including the venue, the tech setup, and the budget for after-hours surveillance, for liability reasons. Which meant there was a chance our conversation had been recorded. A real chance. The next day, I reached out to an old college friend, Malik, who now worked in corporate security compliance. I asked a few hypothetical questions about legal policies around security footage at off-site company events. He told me most professional venues, especially ones hosting high-level executive retreats, kept surveillance footage for up to 90 days. Audio included. That was my window. That night, I drafted an email to the retreat center's operations director, requesting access to footage from the date and time of the bonfire. I didn't mention Camille. I didn't mention harassment. Instead, I claimed I may have lost a personal item, my company badge, and needed to verify the exact timeline of when I was last seen with it. They responded 2 days later, footage located, multiple camera angles, audio available. Processing fee, $165. I paid it before they finished the email. A week later, a download link hit my inbox. My hands shook as I clicked it open. I don't know what I expected, maybe muffled audio or grainy visuals, but what I got sent a chill through me. It was clear. There we were. Camille, holding her wine, swaying slightly on her feet. Me, standing at the edge of the dock, trying to laugh off her advances. The conversation wasn't suggestive, it was blatant. "You want executive track, Ronald," she said. "I can get you there. But you've got to show me you're committed, tonight." The way she touched me. The tone in her voice. And then, just as clear, my rejection. I walked away. She followed briefly, then stopped. Her face tightened. Her entire posture changed. That moment. It was the birth of her grudge. I closed the video and just sat there. In the dark. Watching the screen fade to black. It wasn't just validation. It was proof. Proof I hadn't imagined it. Proof she'd started this war because I refused to be her trophy. But even with the footage, I knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed to build a narrative. A pattern. Because if Camille had done this to me, chances were, I wasn't the first. I reached out to Trevor, a former project coordinator who'd mysteriously resigned 6 months before I was promoted. We hadn't spoken in a while, but I remembered the suddenness of his departure, and the fact that he had attended the retreat the year before mine. He agreed to meet over lunch. When I told him what had happened to me, Camille's proposition, the retaliation, the PIP, he leaned back in his chair and let out a breath I'll never forget. "She did it to me too," he said. His story mirrored mine. Different retreat. Different year. Same script. She made a move on me by the fire pit. I brushed it off. Thought it was a joke at first. Then the deadline started. The cancelled meetings. The missed promotions. The forced resignation. He hadn't had proof. He just walked away. And it had haunted him ever since. We weren't anomalies. We were a pattern. Over the next week, I dug deeper. Quietly. Carefully. I found 2 more men, both former Gravemont employees, who'd attended retreats and left shortly after. One had even left the engineering field altogether. "Toxic management," he said. Tried to report it, but nothing ever came of it. That's when the final puzzle piece clicked into place. I contacted the retreat venue again. Asked if they archived older footage. To my surprise, they did, up to 3 years, for insurance purposes. I requested footage from the year Trevor had attended. And the year before that. Each one was labeled, organized, time-stamped. I wasn't just going to get justice for myself. I was going to expose her entire damn operation. I didn't sleep much that weekend. Not because I was anxious, but because I was focused. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Camille standing on that dock, smirking like she owned me. Like she thought I'd roll over, break under pressure, resign in shame like the others. Not this time. I spent 2 full days creating a timeline, 3 years' worth of harassment, retaliation, and resignations. I color-coded everything: who attended which retreat, when the behavioral shift occurred, when projects were reassigned, when performance reviews mysteriously tanked. I lined up emails, PIP documents, calendar changes, client feedback, some real, some fabricated. I compared mine with the stories I'd collected from Trevor, Ian, and Malcolm, and laid it all next to Camille's timeline of promotions and staff turnover. The pattern was undeniable. She was preying on ambitious, younger men she had power over, dangling opportunity like bait. When we said no, she weaponized policy, performance metrics, and professional reputation to destroy us. But this time, she didn't just leave fingerprints. She left video. I had not one, not two, but 3 separate recordings from 3 different retreats. And in each one, there was Camille. Same style of approach. Same inappropriate advances. Same retaliatory behavior documented shortly after. She had become so comfortable in her manipulation, so confident in the system protecting her, that she never even thought twice about those cameras. Cameras she approved. She wasn't just sloppy. She was arrogant. And that arrogance was going to be her downfall. I called Trevor again. Would you be willing to submit a formal statement? I asked. He didn't hesitate. I've been waiting 3 years for someone to ask me that. Malcolm and Ian agreed as well. One of them even had emails he'd kept, just in case, proof of miscommunication, bizarre project handoffs, and gaslighting feedback eerily similar to mine. Next, I compiled all the evidence into a file I called Project Integrity. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't go to HR yet. Not directly. Instead, I requested a meeting with Patricia, our company's most experienced HR manager. She'd been at Gravemont longer than Camille and had a reputation for being tough but fair. People said she handled complaints like a judge in court, no emotion, just facts and policy. When I showed up to her office that Tuesday morning, I came prepared. 2 printed binders. 1 digital copy. I laid everything out, dates, video transcriptions, side-by-side comparison charts of pre- and post-retreat behaviors. I didn't editorialize. I didn't speculate. I let the facts speak for themselves. To her credit, Patricia didn't flinch. She listened. She took notes. She asked precise, neutral questions. When I played the retreat footage, just a short, relevant clip, her lips pressed into a thin line. "This is a serious allegation," she said finally. "It's not just an allegation," I replied, calm. "It's a pattern. Documented, recorded, and repeatable." She nodded. "I need time to review all of this. And I'll need to bring in executive leadership." "Do it quietly," I said. "She's already extended my PIP once. If she senses what's coming, she'll bury what's left of my credibility." "Understood." We agreed to reconvene in 3 days. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. Camille was still playing her game, piling on projects, rewriting deliverables, and sending vague feedback to make me second-guess myself. She even threw in a random 6:45 a.m. client call, scheduled after midnight. I showed up to every meeting. Delivered every report. Smiled when I wanted to scream. Let her think she was winning. Because the hammer was about to drop. By Thursday afternoon, Patricia scheduled a new meeting. This one wasn't in her office, it was in the 14th floor conference room. The one they reserved for executive decisions, high-level reviews, and termination briefings. I walked in with my digital file in hand. She was already seated, and next to her was James Rutledge, the company's VP of Operations. That's when I knew things had shifted. This wasn't a formality anymore. This was real. The air in that conference room was clinical, too cold, too still. Patricia gave me a curt nod. James Rutledge didn't say much at first, just gestured toward the seat across from them like we were negotiating contracts. But this wasn't a negotiation. This was the beginning of Camille's unraveling. James finally spoke, his voice steady but wary. "Ronald, Patricia has briefed me on your concerns. Before we proceed, I want you to understand something clearly: false accusations carry weight in this company." "Understood," I replied, calm. But I'm not here to accuse anyone. I'm here to present facts. I handed over the digital file on a company-issued flash drive and opened the first binder. I walked them through the timeline, my promotion track, the retreat, Camille's advance, and the professional fallout that followed. I didn't editorialize, I showed dates, emails, project handoffs, and inconsistencies. Every retaliation had a corresponding receipt. Then I played the audio. Camille's voice was unmistakable. "I can fast-track you to executive, Ronald. But you've got to show me some loyalty, tonight." The room was silent. James leaned forward, arms crossed. "Is this authentic?" "Yes. From the company retreat security system." Camille approved the setup herself. Patricia backed me up. She'd already verified the footage metadata. I could see James recalibrating. His eyes narrowed as he reviewed the timeline of other employees who'd resigned, Trevor, Ian, Malcolm, and how each exit aligned with a prior retreat. I laid out their written statements, followed by the video clips from previous years. Same approach. Same manipulation. Same retaliation. Camille's playbook hadn't changed. She'd just assumed no one would ever have the courage, or the proof, to call her out. Patricia spoke next. "We'll need time to escalate this. Ronald, I want you to understand, this is likely going to trigger a full internal investigation, possibly even external legal scrutiny. Are you prepared for that?" I nodded. I've been preparing for weeks. They thanked me for my time and said they'd be in touch. By the time I got back to my desk, Camille was pacing in her office like a panther in a cage. She didn't know exactly what had happened yet, but she could feel the shift. The power she'd wielded like a sword for years was beginning to dull, and she sensed it. The next day, Patricia sent me an email. Camille had been placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. Her access was revoked. Her name vanished from the internal Slack channels. Her email was forwarded to legal. But it wasn't over, not yet. Because the same system she'd used to destroy others. It had layers. I received an anonymous message later that day. Someone from legal, a junior associate, who'd heard rumblings. "Watch your back," it read. "Camille's trying to spin the story. Said you were obsessed with her. Said you manipulated the footage." I didn't panic. Because I was ready. That evening, I contacted employment attorney Rebecca Tran, a specialist in workplace harassment and retaliation cases. I'd already briefed her previously, but now it was official. She filed a protective complaint with Gravemont's legal department and submitted a sealed notice. If Camille continued to spread defamatory claims, we'd pursue civil action. And the kicker? We had more than just internal evidence. Trevor had found something else, something golden. Before he left Gravemont, he'd taken a screen recording of an email Camille accidentally forwarded to him. It was a draft she'd meant to send to HR, painting him as insubordinate and unstable, the beginning of his own PIP setup. She'd never sent it, but she'd typed it. And now we had it. It showed intent. Pattern. Malice. I added it to the binder. Meanwhile, the HR team was quietly interviewing everyone who had ever reported to Camille. Patterns were emerging like cracks in a dam. And soon, they wouldn't be able to patch them. The trap was closing. And Camille? She had no idea how bad it was about to get. Camille didn't go quietly. The Monday after she was placed on leave, Gravemont's internal Slack exploded with rumors. Most were subtle, coded language like management shakeup or unexpected leadership transition. But by Tuesday morning, Camille had gone fully scorched earth. She sent an all-staff email from a private Gmail account. Subject line, "The truth about Ronald Garrett." She claimed I had been obsessed with her. That I had doctored footage. That I had a history of unstable behavior, and had targeted her after she disciplined me for poor performance. She didn't just double down, she tried to burn down the building with her in it. It was desperate. It was reckless. And it was exactly what I'd hoped she'd do. Because by attacking me publicly, she triggered the very clause in our company policy that opened her up to a full-blown defamation liability review. The legal team scrambled. HR issued a company-wide statement urging employees to disregard unauthorized communications from external parties, and reiterated that a formal investigation was underway. But I wasn't done. My attorney, Rebecca, filed an immediate cease and desist against Camille. She also sent a civil pre-litigation notice to her personal email, warning of impending legal action should the defamation continue. Camille went silent. But behind the scenes, I knew she was still trying to manipulate her way out of this. How? Because on Wednesday, Patricia called me into the same 14th floor conference room. This time, there was a fourth chair, occupied by Alan Griggs, Gravemont's chief legal officer. And Camille was on Zoom. Pale. Angry. Still trying to wield control like it wasn't already slipping through her fingers. She started by attacking my credibility. Ronald has always had issues with authority. His performance speaks for itself. Alan interrupted her. Camille, we've reviewed 3 years of surveillance footage from company retreats. Your behavior is consistent across multiple documented instances, including physical and verbal advances toward employees under your supervision. Then Patricia chimed in. We've also collected statements from 4 former employees, all of whom describe identical patterns of retaliation following their refusal of your personal requests. Camille blinked. But it was the next part that gutted her. Alan pulled out a transcript, Trevor's email recording. The one she'd sent by accident, laying the groundwork to sabotage his exit months before I even came into the picture. This email was screen-recorded by a former employee and corroborates your manipulation of performance reviews. It demonstrates intent to manufacture failure, he said coldly. Camille tried to backpedal. That was a draft, it wasn't sent. It was just frustration. But it was too late. Alan leaned in. Camille, you created a hostile work environment for multiple employees. You leveraged your authority for personal gain. You retaliated when that power was denied to you. We have legal grounds for immediate termination. Then Patricia delivered the final blow. The board has also voted to strip you of all pending bonuses, and an external compliance investigation has been initiated. You'll be contacted regarding next steps. For now, your employment with Gravemont is terminated, effective immediately. Camille sat frozen on the screen. Then, as if trying to salvage a sliver of pride, she smirked. You think this ruins me? I know people. I'll land somewhere better. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. The call ended. Alan turned to me and asked quietly, would you like us to send a formal apology on behalf of the company? I shook my head. No. I don't want an apology. I want a culture change. And to my surprise, he nodded. We're working on it. 3 weeks after Camille's termination, I walked into Gravemont's headquarters a free man. Not because I had finally cleared my name, but because I had reclaimed my dignity. Camille was gone. Officially, legally, and publicly. Her badge was deactivated. Her office emptied. Her name erased from the company directory like she never existed. But what mattered more was what came next. Gravemont didn't just bury the scandal. They addressed it. The board launched an internal review of all retreat footage from the past 5 years. 2 other managers, colleagues of Camille, were quietly suspended and later removed. Turns out Camille wasn't the only one playing a dirty game. She'd just been the most brazen. Patricia led the overhaul. Mandatory harassment training for all managers. Third-party oversight of promotions and performance evaluations. An anonymous reporting system with real consequences. The culture began to shift, slowly, but undeniably. Trevor was offered a formal apology and a financial settlement. So were Malcolm and Ian. Trevor used his payout to launch his own consulting business, one that prioritizes ethics and transparency in corporate project management. He sent me a thank you card with just 5 words written inside. You broke the cycle. Finally. As for me, I didn't stay at Gravemont. The truth is, I didn't want to. The battle had changed me. I had been forged in humiliation, anger, and quiet resistance. I wasn't the same guy who once stayed late to avoid politics. I had learned how dark power can get when it goes unchecked, and how vital it is to shine a light on it. I took a job at a smaller, purpose-driven firm in Denver. More hands-on, less hierarchy. The offer came through an old mentor who'd heard what I did and said simply, "We need people like you." It came with a 25% salary bump and a team that actually listens when I speak. Sometimes, late at night, I still replay that doc conversation in my head. But not with shame. With clarity. Because Camille thought she could weaponize silence. She thought if she controlled the narrative, no one would believe the truth. But what she didn't realize was that the truth has teeth. It bites back. And the most damning evidence was the very system she put in place. She didn't just hand me the weapon. She carved the handle. And when it came time to strike, all I had to do was press play. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.